It's like a worm that's eating my brain. It's like I must get it out. Wedding cake.
Yeah, people, we cannot make this. This is just not.
This is not scripted.
Do you find it hard to stop yourself? Like you're just joyful because you're not doing anything to be mean, right?
As I get older, I'm like, fuck it. Okay, so I put my foot in my mouth and I can always repair. I took it to a whole new level.
Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to Sisters.
Sisters.
They were never such devoted
Sisters.
Hey there, cutie. How you doing?
Hello. I'm a little tired today, but we're working through it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're able to be here with me.
Absolutely. I would love being here with you.
Aw, it's so good. All right. We love to delve into that neuro-spicy, neuro-fabulous, neuro-luxe, neuro-chic brain of yours. Yeah, and we're really focusing on kind of the ADHD, the attention deficit hyperactivity distinction, we like to say, instead of disorder.
That's right.
That is your brain. And usually I bring up some topic, something, right? Or a memory.
Usually, yeah.
Sometimes I just bring up like glasses, talk to me about it. And then you do, which is so lovely. And then we kind of dig into that brain of yours to figure out what's going on in terms of all of that. And then we like to look at maybe strategies or things that you think might be helping. And then we reach out to our community to try to get them to get involved and help us know any tips, tricks, ideas, questions, all of that, right?
All of it.
Okay, so today we are going to be discussing the tendency that people with ADHD, meaning you, I don't know all people, I just know you might maybe say things that just are coming off the top of your head. Like, and you do it with enthusiasm.
Denny's!
Right? Like Denny's. Oh my gosh. You have to tell that story. Okay, so always like with this childlike nature, which is the greatest thing about anybody you love with ADHD, is you can always count on them to take you back in time to childhood quickly because they're so in the moment. Okay, so I'm going to preface this little story by saying we are in a caravan, a 1985 Dodge Caravan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of Twinkie yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Would we say that's right?
Yep.
I think it did get named the Twinkie Mobile when you were in high school.
Yep.
Can you describe what you remember from that? Then I will describe what I remember from that. So we are on a family trip to California, okay? And it's you, Mom, Mike, and I, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that I don't think we'd ever gone to Denny's, but I think it was around the time that it kind of came into the zeitgeist. And I'm sure there were tons of advertisements on Saturday cartoons or, whenever I was watching shows. And I just thought it would look like the greatest thing I could possibly ever go to. So I always wanted to go. And it was,
I think we did. And we didn't go to Denny's.
No, we never did.
Thing. Yeah.
I don't think we could afford it or.
No, just Dad liked Coco's better.
Yeah. And it was also one of those things where I think Mom would say like, okay, well, next time we see one, we'll go there. And I was just like, okay, challenge accepted.
And this is on like an 12-hour journey from Tucson to the coast in California.
Yeah. And in some ways it did keep me quiet for a very long time until I saw a Denny's. So like my favorite thing to do would be is we're driving around and I see, the Denny's out there. I'm like, Denny's!
And it was every time. And what's so funny is I don't know how many Denny's there were back then.
There were a lot back then.
There was like every, couple of minutes there was another of Denny's and you were committed to it. You were committed. You were like maybe 5 or 6, I think.
Full on committed to it.
Full committed to the Denny's. And so just the minute you would see it, the excitement, the enthusiasm, and you would scream in the middle of the car.
Yeah.
Denny's as hard and loud as you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty loud.
Yeah. And I mean, your acting training did not help with that. Now you're just louder.
Now I'm just more resonant.
Yes, you are more resonant. That is true. You can get to the back of the theater with that voice of yours.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about, you get excited. I get excited too. So I think I have this, we talk about interrupting before on this podcast. I'm not really thinking of that so much. It's just like when you think of something and you love it, it has to come out.
Yeah, for the most part, it has to come out.
Yeah.
And I've learned that if it doesn't come out, then it makes life that much harder. It's like a worm that's eating my brain. It's like I must get it out.
Gotta get it out.
Yeah.
Now, do you have an example of like recently, like, do you have things like this with Brian that you do that you just like, he's pretty cool about you being you. So I'm wondering if he just lets you go.
He does, actually. He's so sweet about it.
Yeah,
or he can't hear. I'm not sure. No, he's actually very sweet about it because, there's a couple things that happen. There are thoughts that come into my head that I want to just express or I need to talk about, or if I'm like talking with you, that I flap and I go some other direction, and then I have to say it. Otherwise, I won't be able to pay attention to what it is you're saying next. Because I'll be thinking about it. And then there's the other one where I just, something just feels really good in my mouth, like saying it. And I just love like rolling the words around in my mouth and like, exploring every possible way that I could say wedding goo cakey.
Okay, you have to explain that because no one will understand. Well, no, somebody will understand it, but very few, I would think.
Have I talked about this one yet? I'm blurting out.
Might
I don't remember.
have, but like,
for those of you who haven't heard it. So there's this show called One Piece. It's an anime. It's been like running since 1997 or something. It's very long.
Out of Japan.
Out of Japan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there is, I guess, an arc. It's called Whole Cake Island, which I can't believe I remember it, but it's my favorite one. And it's basically an entire musical arc where like you're going to Disneyland and everybody is singing and dancing and everything is alive. It's great. Like even like the gingerbread men are alive and
wow.
all of the like flowers and stuff. So they're all singing and it's like kind of dark too. So it's good. The main bad guy, her name is Big Mom, and she's runs Whole Cake Island, and she is like obsessed with desserts. And so sometimes she gets into these crazy trances where like she has to eat, and she has to eat the one thing. And so she's been like excited about the wedding because of the wedding cake. Her daughter's having a wedding, and the only thing that she wants from it is like this amazing wedding cake. It's going to taste so good. And so she gets fixated on it, and the wedding cake gets destroyed. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Oh.
And so earmuffs, and she just goes around like destroying everything, like looking for her wedding cake. And she's like, "Where's my wedding cake? Where's the wedding cake?" But in Japanese, she says, however she says it, where's my, and then she says, wedding goo cakey. And it just made me loved it. It wasn't like even giggle. It was just like, I loved the wedding goo cakey. Wedding goo cakey. Like she would say it, the voice actress was amazing. She'd say it so many different ways. And I just, I think I went on for maybe a good 2 hours doing that to poor Brian.
And so is that like the carried away with enthusiasm part? Is that, that idea that it's just, you're so enthusiastic about it because it feels so good to say it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not doing it in like it's not like a negative, burrowing kind of a thing. It's just like, it feels amazing. Wedding goo cakey.
So So, okay, I want to bring up another little, kind of moment. So I remember we were so excited for going to this event, right? And there was a family member who was going to be in a show. And we were told we were allowed to vocalize, like, at this show. But I don't know that we understood, neither of us, you nor I, understood that what they meant by vocalizing was clapping or something. Like, you were allowed to clap, but I don't think you were. So when you have moments where you're like wanting to really, express how excited you are for something or how fun something is, and you're in a setting where maybe it is or isn't appropriate to do so, do you find it hard to stop yourself? Like you're just joyful because you're not doing anything to be mean, right? You just, isn't you. But like you will like just something off the top of your head and you'll just say it or do it.
Yeah. It can be hard depending on the situation I'm in. I think that's why, like, I go back to when you were telling me to sit still and I'm like, wait, I have to prepare myself. You can't tell me to do it.
Right.
And I've learned over time that, okay, there are situations where I can't just blurt out whatever it is I want to say.
Right.
So I have to kind of prep myself for, like, okay, this is the environment you're going into. And, just, Megan, like, you're going to have a lot of thoughts. You're just going to say them to yourself and you will giggle to yourself. And you are your own audience in that moment.
I just wonder too, like, if it's partly because you're an actor or if you're an actor because you have this kind of need to vocalize these things that are, I mean, I know stuff with the acting isn't always on the top of your head because, you have a script, but I don't know. Just kind of curious.
Well, I mean, it probably doesn't hurt. Like, it probably helps the fact that, like, I don't mind looking like a fool, because that's like the entire job of being an actor is just like looking like an idiot. Like, where other people would, like, society would kind of consider you looking stupid.
Right.
And like acting.
I remember us like singing to, one of our nephews very loudly and thinking it was awesome. And we were so excited to sing to him. And he's like running away because, of course, teenagers like don't really want to be acknowledged that much. So we've had to learn. I mean, I've had to learn too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like growing up in our family, it was just sort of like expected that people were going to sing at the top of their lungs and be really enthusiastic. But maybe we were all ADHD and this was,
That's probably a good point. Like, because, people come into our family like, you guys are really loud. And it's like, really? Oh, okay. What do you mean we're loud? I have no idea.
And I think we are. I think there was like an SNL skit like with the Loud family or something. We probably would have fit that.
We're the Loud family.
Yeah, people are just like screaming, I don't know. I think that was what it was anyway.
I can't decide if I broke this or not because I just felt something wet on my hand. Did I break it? Did I officially break it?
Are you talking about your little bear?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
See, I had to say something. Otherwise, I would get distracted. Because I'm like smelling my finger. Like, it smells industrial. Like, uh-oh.
What's the bear called again?
A Nido.
Nido.
I mean, it seems like there's stuff in there.
You think you broke your Nido. And this is like this big, giant looking gummy bear, but it's not made out of gummy material.
But I just got it like 2 days ago. I probably have already broken it.
Yeah.
Broke it.
Broken. Mine's broken.
Broken. No, I don't know. I'm just letting you know I might have punctured it because I'm feeling something wet. But it could have been I spat on myself. Who knows? Okay, we'll continue. Hi. There's an example right there. Like, I know we're like literally in the middle of a podcast. And I'm like, we have to address the Nido because
I need to say what's on the top of my head right now and with enthusiasm.
In the podcast about saying what's on top of your head with enthusiasm.
People, we cannot make this. This is just not.
This is not scripted. This is live, folks.
Live, people.
She just proved the point right there.
Yeah. So we started. I'm going to go with a little
Where
thing
were we?
off. I'm going to talk about something that's off the top of my head right now too. So we've been starting our podcast with, kind of getting getting ready, kind of hyped up. And I realized I needed to do meditation and you needed to get hyped up because I have to stay so focused to keep us on track.
You're working so hard, Michelle.
So hard. I mean, I take naps after this.
We both take naps, but for totally different reasons.
Totally different reasons. Okay, so you have like some great examples, I think, of times when this like blurting something at the top of your head, super enthusiasm has happened, and you get in trouble with our family, with friends, with me, with the whatever. And then we're all hypocrites and we all do it too. So, So,
and I make sure to point it out when you all do it too. Cause I'm like, if you're going to point out to me, no, do I? I probably
You're
don't.
very good at taking feedback. I am less good.
Yeah, I don't. I don't actually.
I really, really work at it now because you're my example. You're my guru of that. But okay, so can you remember a time like in high school, for example, or in college where, you might have had like some really enthusiastic response to something and, you realized, oh, wait, I'm the only one. This is me. I'm the only one who's having this kind of response.
No, because I never realize I'm having the response. It's not until like days later that someone says, "Did you know?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea." The horror.
I'm so sorry. I embarrassed all of you Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is also part of where I started to just not talk and not reveal myself because I learned very quickly that people didn't really want to know how I was doing when they asked. Because, someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you exactly. Like, I got this ache in my back and I don't know, like I'm feeling a little weird today. Feeling a little like off center." And they're like, "Okay,
you just gave me permission to tell you what's on the top of my head."
Exactly. So like I do remember very specifically in high school, I had like this kind of boilerplate thing that I would tell kind of everybody, but they didn't know I was telling them that. Where I had like a 10% of what I normally am like, and I would tell them to make them think that I was delving into the deepest, darkest places of my life. But in fact, it was like just scratching the surface. So people thought I was really open and talkative and like, telling them all the things. And it was like, you don't even know.
You don't know, buddy. Like, I'm not telling you nothing.
You don't even know. Because like I knew that no one wanted to really hear it.
So when you say that, I think that's true of so many of us, right? You realize at some point that people are exchanging pleasantries, right? Yeah. That to me, though, is different than somebody asks you how you're doing. That's off the top of your head. But like you're seeing something, you're observing something, and you're wanting to vocalize about what that is. I mean, maybe it's the same, but I do feel like there's somehow a difference in this. And I just want us to explore a little further. Like that Denny's, you said it's somehow like feels really pleasant to say or to experience. But does it, when you see something that you're just super interested in, is that prompt you to want to talk about it?
Probably. I remember we went to like PF Chang's one time. And we're like at the bar, we're just sitting, having a couple drinks, chat with each other. And the bartender's talking to us. And like, I said something to him where I was observing something profound in him, but I didn't realize I was observing something profound. And apparently I totally freaked him out, but I didn't realize I freaked him out. And I was like, oh, did I freak you out? Like, so I think that's the thing is like, I observed something in people and you're like, man, I don't think he really like wanted to know that at work. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. He is at work. And I'm like having this like deep realization of him. And he's just like, okay, I gotta go over here now.
Gotta go. I'm sorry. So you find you have that where you observe something in someone else and it's pretty profound sometimes for them.
Well, because I think people just don't observe each other on a right. No, that's not true. I don't think that people take the time to talk about real things that they're seeing. There's a lot of elephants sitting in a room and no one's talking about the dang elephants.
And you're like, I see all of them.
I'm like, okay, let's chat. Let's talk to every one of them.
Yeah.
Hey there, awesome people. It's time for a quick check-in. If you're feeling a little bit restless, take this time to pause and do a silly dance. But if you're all good, let's keep cruising.
So people are not observing, paying attention to each other, not really listening, not really observing.
I think that people are observing, but not necessarily communicating their observations. And, we do a lot of pleasantries and a lot of niceties with everybody that we meet. And, sometimes I just want to be seen. And I assume that others want to be seen. And, I think that a lot of people are trying to, I don't know. Okay, I shouldn't say this. I have observed that many people who I observe and communicate that to, they don't want to be seen. They want to be able to just hide in whatever it is that they're hiding in. And that's okay. I'm like, everyone needs to come to their stuff at their own time.
Do you feel like you sort of understand that because you sort of hid for a while too? Because you talk about not being open at some point because you realized people didn't always want to hear what you had to say.
Yeah. I wasn't hiding by choice. I was hiding out of survival. I guess that's choice, but it's not my natural state. And
yeah,
it seems like it's a lot of people's natural state. So I had to kind of twist myself into a state that would work for everyone else in order to survive.
Yeah. And do you feel like that's because of, I don't know. I mean, is it like was that true in the theater too? You even had to do it in the theater?
Yeah. The theater people sometimes were even worse.
Wow.
It just depended on, it depended on the group, and that's,
sure.
For sure. Cause even for theater people, I was a bit too much. It's like, that's saying something. Okay, people.
Yeah. And what was it that was too much? Or did you perceive as being too much?
I perceived, my enthusiasm about everything, and my excitement. It was on one hand, some people will be like, "Ugh, it's just a job," and let's just move on and stop asking questions. Or on the other side of it, it was we're gonna have just a free for all, and we don't have to have any sort of professionalism. And I'm just like, can we just keep this on track so we can continue and have fun? But their type of fun was different than what my type of fun would be.
So if we dig into that just a little bit, dig into that brain of yours a bit, let's use the theater as an example for a minute. So you're in grad school, right? I don't know if that's what you're thinking of when you're saying this, or if it was more.
I'm thinking of all of my theater. I'm all of the different types of theaters I've done. It kind of
blends.
There's differences depending on which one I went to.
Okay. So, you're in the theater, and I would think you would want people to be excited, right? You would want there to be, because then it would be energy and they'd be interested in what they were doing. And how might that present for you? What would that have looked like on day one of getting ready to do a production?
Well, I think that there is, as I've learned over the years, there is something of too much energy, where your energy isn't honed or focused. So yeah, it would just be bouncing around oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. And I just can't stop moving. And I'm probably distracting everybody and saying hi to everyone. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? My name is Megan. Talking really fast. And there's whoa, that's a lot coming at me.
Got it.
Especially if it's your job, you definitely get jaded with anything that you do in some level. So having, you're I'm just trying to work here, kid, but then on the other hand, it's you can go into cliques And so people are so used to like working all together. And so if you come in and you're an outsider, it can be different too. And so there's just like your energy doesn't always match with the other people.
It's not always appreciated.
Yeah.
So what might be some of the things you've done to sort of, I mean, you go into a lot of new situations because of Brian being in the military. You've worked quite a few jobs, you know, what might help with that? Or is there anything that has helped with that?
Just like shutting my mouth for a little while. It's so hard.
Yeah.
People tend to think I'm really shy in the beginning because I just don't speak at all. I'm just there observing, and I wait until I kind of feel more comfortable with being in that new situation. So I kind of get the lay of the land of like, okay, who are the people, and like really how much energy can I use and how much energy can't I use? And, you know, I'm trying to like suss out the situation. You know, I like when I went to the boneyard, I was working at the air maintenance regeneration group on Davis Monthan. And my first day,
and that's where all the old planes go to be retired usually.
Yeah. Or they get regenerated into like really cool new spacecraft or aircraft. So it's my first day there, and, you know, they're taking me through all the information and orientation and all of that kind of stuff. And at some point, you know, I was like super excited to be around all these planes, and like potentially I was supposed to originally be teaching different like mechanical things. I'm like, that just sounds so much fun to learn all of that. And so I was like super jazzed. I'm like, okay, I can use all this information that I've gained over time. And I always make this joke about how, because Dad taught us how to solder electrical components, I always joked that I was like, I was the fastest solderer in the West, because I always pretended like when I was soldering that I was in a soldering competition. Who can get there faster? Is it going to be Megan, or is it going to be the other person? And I'm like, I'm getting all the soldering joints in, and I won. And then I imagine, you know, like the fanfare, and I would get a trophy, and I was the fastest solderer in the West.
Yeah.
You know, at age 10.
Yeah.
And so I joke about it. And so I mentioned this, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm a total master solderer. Yeah. Like, or I'm a fast solderer. And I was like, yeah, like a master solderer or something like that. And he's just like, oh, really? Is that true? And then he's like, I'm like, yeah. He's like, 1 second, and he gets this like shit-eating grin on his face, and he goes into the other room, and he brings back 3 people who are the 3 people I'm going to be working with for the next year and a half.
Oh God.
And he says, Megan, tell them what you just told me. And I was like, I'm the fastest solderer in the West.
I haven't done it in 30 years, but
well, I have done it recently, yeah. But
okay.
But I'm laughing at myself because I was just like, then he proceeds to like lay out exactly how he is a true, like there's actually something called a master solderer.
Oh gosh.
Where it's like an actual class that you take, and he's the one who teaches it, and he teaches, you know, all these people how to become master solderers. And I was just like, so I'm relaying this to Brian, and I'm telling him the story, and he's like, Megan, why? Just like, why would you say that? And I was like, I don't know why I said it. I just was being friendly. He's like, but you gotta stop saying things. So, you know.
Yeah. The enthusiasm sometimes gets away from you.
Backfires and just bites you in the ass, you know?
Oh my gosh. So you find yourself just being really quiet then?
It's just easier. If I just am quiet, then I can't put my foot in my mouth.
I am so curious, like, what other people do in our community, because, you know, I don't know. I'm not good at this either. I pretty much say what I'm thinking very matter-of-factly, and I do get in trouble sometimes for that. And I think I'm slightly different sometimes, but not always, in that I think fairly quickly, so I can sometimes like get myself out of it. Right? Like I'll figure out how to navigate out of whatever stupid thing I've just
Yeah, you're a
said.
Jedi with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've watched you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I can do that sometimes, but I start with the same place you're at. Right? So
By putting your foot in your mouth.
completely put my foot in my mouth and then figured out how to be endearing with that, but it's I think there's a lot of eye rolling that goes along with that with my at my work, and it's interesting. We talk about, you interrupting or blurting, but I do that as much or more than you.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely have that tendency.
Well, and I think I've just learned over time that, I don't know, I just, as I get older, I'm like, fuck it. Like okay, so I put my foot in my mouth and I can always repair, like it's up to somebody else to let me know if I've offended them, because I can say something that sounds completely innocuous to me, but it could be very offensive to someone else. And it's up to other people. If you are offended, you have to help teach people what's going on. There has to be some kind of a conversation. But also, as I worked at the Boneyard, I was working a lot with my friend Latoya, who sometimes listens, and we love Latoya.
Latoya.
And she would always say, like, Megan, we need your spirit here. We need you here. And however it is that you do stuff, that's okay. And we have to learn how to work around it, because that's like, you're bringing a whole other flavor to this dish here.
Yeah.
And to not be apologetic about who I am.
I love that. And I think that, that piece of you that does get brought to the forefront, that part of the issue is not shaming people for who they are as well. I remember we were out to dinner one day and there was a young man behind us, and it was clear that he was on the spectrum in some way. And you could just hear the shaming that was happening with his family. And that was obviously a pattern. He said something kind of loudly, but somebody else had started the conversation. He just said it more loudly than others and ended up getting kind of, harassed by his family for this. And I remember you and I looking at each other and I'm thinking, yeah, I think that happened to you a lot when you were growing up, whether it was from me and my like really mean friends, because we were 7 years older than you and we're like, ugh, eye roll, sisters, little sisters, or, just family not accepting, who you were, even though I think we all are equally loud and can speak, off the top of our heads very, very effectively.
This is true.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
A lot of it, I think, comes down to like the hypocrisy just drives me crazy. So it's like, so you can be loud at home and bother me, like screaming at the TV about the, whatever game that's on, or, being loud in other ways, but I can't be loud out and about, or someone can have like a ridiculously loud, they take their muffler off their car and they're just like driving around and it's super loud, and that's okay. But like, again, me talking out loud is not, it's the societal expectations are interesting. And it's like, they're so passe. It's so old, it's like the old way of doing things. Let's move on to the new stuff. Okay.
Let's move on to the neuro-friendly. Yeah.
Just a friendly. I mean, all of this stuff, like all of these societal expectations come out of inequities, and trying to keep people who are in power and have money in a status symbol. And that's where they come from. And it's all about like, we've received pronunciation, we have received wealth, and we have, this etiquette that the lower classes don't have. And it's trickled down now into these like societal norms. Well, the society that created them, they were pretty, jacked up at the time. So do we really want to be like maintaining these norms that were very, very destructive in their and purposely destructive in their nature?
Yeah. When you say that, I think to myself that this is one of those that maybe you don't need strategies for other than acceptance of yourself, and that some people may struggle with you, that you have to accept yourself so much so that if others struggle with it, you don't continue to beat yourself up around it.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a radical acceptance one. Now, granted, there probably are situations where you have to like learn, but to ask a child to not do that is really hard. And I would be curious as to if there's any research that's been done on, you know, the harms of asking kids to not do these things that are just so inherent. And unfortunately, like, you just can't, as a kid, you just can't stop.
Yeah.
You know, we do all this research on social media, right? And how social media disturbs the brain. And it's like, well, you're asking, like, when you're telling someone to be who they are, to not be that way, you're disrupting their brain. And I'm sure it causes tons of behavioral and emotional psychosomatic issues, because it's like, okay, who you are is not cool.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. And I think there is support, I think, for in relationships, that you have to, at some point, listen to other people and find out, you know, is something you're doing harming them? And there's some negotiation between being exactly who you are every minute and also being aware that, you know, our behaviors and the things that we do can harm others. But I would agree that I would say 90% of it was that you were supposed to change, you know, and it wasn't always stated in a way to you. I think that, you know, this is actually really embarrassing me, or this is hard for me. You know, it was always like, you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that. So I think it's also about building that relationship as well, and what is acceptable within the relationship between you and other people sometimes. And then maybe, you know, that relationship's not going to stand because, you know, I'm asking you to be other than you are. Right.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I think that's part of what I remember you talking about, you know, to me the last like 5 or 6 years was, you know, these are things that I need to be able to do. I need to be able to express. I need to be able to be who I am. And you're the one that's going to need to change. I've been trying to be somebody who I'm not for all these years. If we're going to have a relationship, then you're going to have to meet me a little more, maybe even more than halfway in some ways. But like, it's your turn to figure out how to accept me. So I'm appreciative of that, though, because I think it makes me more accepting in life in general.
Yeah, you know, you're saying that, and it's reminding me that that is the crux of why it was so hard growing up, is that I was expected to change, but no one else was expected to change around me. Yeah. That's why I perceived I was the one who was at fault all the time.
Right.
And even if mom and dad were taking you off to the side and telling you about what you needed to do, I wasn't witnessing that.
Right.
So the only thing I was witnessing was just me getting, I didn't want to say the words that actually came into my mind, but me getting disciplined in front of you guys and not seeing the other form of discipline if it ever happened. So yeah, I think that there is this like accountability that has to happen on both ends. And you're right. Like, I think for a while you did have to meet me more than halfway because of just how I was meeting for so long. Yeah. And I think as like I've gotten more comfortable with it and we've, you know, worked through a lot of it, like the balance is definitely now more of like, okay, who's got the higher temperature today, right?
Yeah.
So like,
who's having the harder time? Yeah. I think when you say that, you know, looking back, just to kind of go back a little bit, we really didn't know what was going on. We just did not know what we were observing. And I think that it was, you know, scary actually at times. You know, I've talked with, and I know mom was very, very consistent with Mike and I about being kind to you. And that was definitely, you know, what we would get reprimanded for if we weren't being kind. With that said, I think things that we thought we were doing to be kind were actually unkind sometimes to you, right? So and it was sort of looking at some kind of strange, we were seeing behaviors, but we didn't know why those behaviors were happening. And we weren't curious about them. We were kids and we were like, stop doing that thing that's annoying me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty normal between siblings. But I think what wasn't normal was how much you heard that from adults in every aspect of your life. And I think kids can be mean, and that's, something they're learning about, and that's true too. But it was everywhere. I mean, we would go and visit, family, and they were openly saying things that were, I think were within earshot of you, of, there she goes again doing that stuff, whatever it was. And it was brutal. There was no safe place.
No. And that's the struggle, is that like, if it is, it's like people feel like it's okay to openly judge people like me in public, people I don't even know, strangers. So it's like, there is no safe place to go. And so that's why, if you are someone who has a neurodiverse kid or a spouse or somebody, if you can start creating that safe space for them in your home, it just, gosh, what a world of a difference it makes, and I think that Brian understands it a bit more, because who knows, like, he's not officially diagnosed, but like, we joke, we're like, yeah, with our brains combined, we're ADD. So it's been to live in a home that I feel just 100% accepted, has been, it truly has been life-changing for me, because I can just be my crazy normal self and he doesn't judge it.
Yeah.
And it's just such a breath of fresh air to like see that, yes, there are things that like obviously neither one of us do to each other that drive us crazy. Sure.
Yeah.
But these things that have, wherever else I've gone, I get openly lambasted, I get openly made fun of, and he just doesn't, he's like, just go with the punches, babe. Like, yeah, you keep doing that. You keep saying that wedding goo cakey. It's hilarious. Go for it, Like,
do it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm curious with our community if anyone else out there is, can identify with this and what they do to accept themselves and the other people in their lives, or maybe they're not being accepted is probably more likely, right?
Yeah. And like, what do they do to try to find solace in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thank you and appreciate you so much for sharing your wedding goo cakey with us.
Wedding goo cakey. And it turns out I went back to listen to it, and she doesn't actually say wedding goo. That's just something I made. It morphed into that. I think she's like, wedding cake, wedding cakey. But I just created it. I took it to a whole new level.
Oh my goodness. I can just see you doing that. And I've heard you doing it, so I get it completely.
We had to explain it to you so you knew. Yeah. What the heck was going on?
Every time I would come over to your house and there's like wedding, and I'm like, what is happening?
Like, what is wedding goo cakey? Ew.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Sisters. This series has us focusing more specifically on ADHD and all of its symptoms, and we're diving deep into a list that we got from the book Driven to Distraction. Make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're currently listening to so that you can get notified each week. Now, these topics get deeper and deeper into my life, and I'm feeling a little bit revealed. So until then, here's to a great end of the week, and remember, stay curious.
Okay, Michelle. All right, Megan. I'm trying to be zen and you're like, ah!
This right here explains the difference of you and I.
All right, bring it on, Megan.
Bring it on, Michelle.
Bring it on. Okay.